Hello and welcome. This is DarianDelford, and today we're going to be talking about Battle Forge and the cards that are within Battle Forge. For those of you who aren't familiar with it quite yet, Battle Forge was a game created by Phenomic, published by EA, which shut down on October 31st of 2013. However, there's a group called Battle Forge Reborn that's attempting to bring the game back, and as it's looking right now, it looks like they're going to be able to bring the vast majority, if not all of it, back. So one of the issues that the original Battle Forge game had was the learning curve for newer players. Unless you understood it, new players had a very, very difficult time, and that's one of the issues that Battle Forge had was retaining new players to stick with it because the learning curve is rather steep, especially for PvP. So today we're going to go over the cards and being able to look at the cards and seeing exactly what they can and cannot do. There are many, many tutorials about the cards. However, I'm going to go into a little bit more depth because most of them just describe, we'll give you a picture and describe a few things. There's actually about 8 or 10 different types of cards you have to be familiar with. And once you understand the basic types as well as the counter system, you'll be able to use any card and understand any card. So what we have here is this is a basic Battle Forge card. There are four primary colors in Battle Forge: red, green, purple, and blue. Green is nature, red is fire, blue is frost, and purple is shadow. This is green, so it's obviously a nature card. You can tell by the green background. Now, when you're looking at a card, this card actually tells you a lot of information about this particular unit, as most card games do, but you can really get a good understanding for it. First off, the name, Spearman. That's your name. It's pretty simple. The 70 right here represents how much power is required to summon this particular unit. So it takes 70 power to summon the Spearman. Now we'll get into power wells and power acquisition in a later tutorial, so I'm not really going to harp on it too much. However, right here, this is a real big. This is your, basically for lack of a better term, your level requirement. This is a level 1 or a tier T1 or an era 1 card. All those terms are interchangeable. You'll hear tier 1, era 1 orb, or first level. I mean, they're all interchangeable. They all mean the same thing. And you'll see more as we get a little bit further on this tutorial. This one has a full green circle. That means you have to have at least a minimum of one nature orb or one green orb to be able to summon this card. If it was a solid red circle, you would have to have one solid fire orb or one fire orb to be able to summon it. And we'll see examples of that later on. So this tells you that it's a tier 1 or era 1 card. Your next information is going to be the type of creature it is. In this case, this is human soldiers. So it tells you it's human. We do have different classes. We have human, beast, ogre, dragon, and a whole bunch of other things. Now, the first number that you're going to see right here, this 5, this represents the charges. This tells you how many times you can summon this card before it has to recharge. So you'll be able to summon 5 of them rather quickly. However, when you go to summon the 6th one, it's automatically going to go on a cooldown. Now, with the cooldown is actually pretty easy to figure out. All the cooldown is your power divided by 2 in seconds. So this is 70 power divided by 2 is 35. So it has a cooldown of 35 seconds. As you upgrade your card, this is a level 1 card, and you'll see level 2, level 3 later on. You can only summon it 5 times before it has to go cooldown. When you upgrade your card, that will change 5, 10, 15, and your power. I can't remember if your power requirement drops or not for Spearman, but some cards they do is therefore your cooldown drop. The next, by 6, what this means is instead of summoning one individual unit, this is actually a squad. It's a squad of 6 Spearmen. Squads have advantages and disadvantages, which we'll cover in another tutorial, but just understand that this is actually going to summon 6 spearmen in a squad formation, 2x3. The next box, right here below it, this is your special abilities box. Uh, Cards will have some special abilities, some cards won't. This particular card has one special ability, weapon change, and they can have 0 all the way up to 4 or even to 5 special abilities. It just depends on the card. So when you're actually able to highlight the card in the game, it will give you a description of those particular special abilities. And at the end of this tutorial, I'll take you to a website that actually you can see it firsthand. You'll understand what I'm talking about. Now, this next section right here. This is the meat and potatoes of Battle Forge. If you understand this section right here, you'll excel at not only PvE, but also PvP. Now, why is it so important? Because this card right here not only tells you its health and attacks, but it tells you what it gets bonus damage to. And here's how you figure it out. First and foremost, the heart. That stands for health. So this particular spearman has 720 health or 720 hit points. The S means it is a small unit. In Battle Forge, we have 4 sizes. We have small, medium, large, and extra large. And they're all donated by an S, an M, an L, or an XL. So that tells you what unit it is. So this is a small unit right here. Your next number, this is the amount of damage it does. Now, Battle Forge, it does damage in increments of 20 seconds. So the Spearman, if it attacks a medium, large, or an extra large unit, it will do 600 points of damage in 20 seconds. The sword represents melee or hand-to-hand. So this is a melee card. You also have ranged, which will be represented by a bow, and you also have special attacks, which will be represented by a star, and we'll go over those here in a little bit. Now, the important thing, the really important thing is what is next to the attack. This S means it is small counter. Now remember, the 600 represents you're doing 600 damage over 20 seconds unless you are fighting a small unit, in which case the spearmen counter other small units, so they get a damage bonus. That damage bonus is 50%. Forgive my writing here. I'm not used to writing with the mouse. So you actually get a damage bonus of 50%. So you have 600 times that 50% will give you 900 points of damage. So when the spearmen are attacking another small unit, it's not doing 600, it's actually doing 900 points of damage, which is huge in this game. And this right here is what really screws up new players because they don't quite grasp the concept. So when you have a spearmen and they're fighting, say, a shaman, which is a medium unit, and we won't get into the special ability right now. We'll handle that. We'll just do this as default. If they're fighting, say, a shaman, they're only going to do 600 points of damage. That's all they can do. But if they're fighting another small unit, say, wind weavers, which is a small unit, then they'll actually be doing 900 points of damage. And that's really the key. You don't want your counters fighting stuff that they aren't meant to fight. Sometimes you don't have a choice in the matter, but if you have a counter fighting what they're supposed to be, it increases the damage and you allow it to destroy that card a little bit quicker. The last thing on this card is the rarity. You have 4 forms of rarity: common, uncommon, rare, and ultra rare. Common is brown, uncommon is grayish or white, rare is gold, and ultra rare is platinum or blue. The only thing that really doesn't have too much play or effect on gameplay. It just tells you how rare it is to get it from a booster pack. So when you're trying to get brand new cards and you have to use a booster pack, that just tells you basically your chance. Now the difference between most cards is this is a squad because it has 6. Our next card here, this Dread Charger, is purple, so it's shadow. It requires 1 shadow orb, and it takes 60 power to be able to summon it. You can summon 3 before it goes into recharge. Here are the special abilities. It is a rare card. This is the gold symbol. It has 520 health. It is a medium unit. It has 600 attack. It is a melee unit, so it's hand-to-hand, and it is a small counter. So, if you had a matchup between your Dread Charger and your Spearman, the Dread Charger is a small counter. The Spearman is a small unit. So the Dread Charger would actually do 900 points of damage against the small unit. However, the Spearman, which is a small counter, would only be doing their minimum damage of 600 versus the Dread Charger. Now, I'm using a bad example here because Spearman can actually change their weapon to be a medium counter, but default, it would not work. So that's the key. So the Dread Charger would actually be able to, even though it only has 520 health and the Spearman has 720 health, because the Dread Charger does more damage versus a small, because it's a small counter, they will actually beat the Spearman in a heads-on fight. So that's really the key to understanding the counter system. The next card we're going to talk about is Sunstriders. This is a fire card. You can see it's red. It costs 50 power, and it requires 1 fire orb. You can summon 5 before it has to recharge. It's a squad, hence the ×6. Here's the special abilities, and it has 360 health, and it's a small unit as well. It does 432 points of damage in over 20 seconds. It is a ranged unit. So here's the bow for the ranged damage. It is also a medium counter. So with it being a medium counter, you could use Sunstriders to do extra damage against the Dredge Charger because the Dredge Charger is a medium unit. And this here, the counter system is really the meat, it is the meat and potatoes. If you can understand this and grasp it, this game it really becomes very, very easy. It is an uncommon because it has the brown hat, as I call it. This is a frost card. This is what frost cards look like because they're blue. It's a War Eagle. It's actually a common card used in PvP. It costs 100 power and it requires 2 frost orbs. Solid blue means it requires frost. So you cannot have a nature orb and a frost orb. You won't be able to summon this. You have to have 2 frost orbs. It is a rare. So once again, all that means is it's just the rarity in packs. You can summon 3 before you have to recharge. Here are the special abilities, and this is a 650 health unit. It is considered to be a large unit. It can do 1,300 points of damage in 20 seconds. It is a ranged unit, and it is a medium counter. So as a medium counter, it will actually do 1,350 times 50% damage to all medium units, which makes it very, very effective at the tier 2 or era 2 level, which is 2 orbs, because a lot of medium units are in that area. So this is a very strong card in PvP. This is a Burrower, 70 power. However, you will see it required you have a solid green, and then you have a hollow orb requirement. Basically what that means is any orb, any color orb can fill that. You have to have 1 solid nature orb, so you have to have at least 1 nature, but you could have a fire orb here, a nature or another nature orb, a shadow orb, or a frost orb. Any orb required so long as you have 1 nature orb. 710 health. It's a medium unit. It can do 820 points of damage over 20 seconds. Now, this symbol right here means it has a special attack. As you can notice, it doesn't have a counter unit to it or a counter damage to it, so it doesn't actually do any extra damage versus small, medium, large, or extra large. No matter the size of the creature, it's always going to do 820 points of damage in 20 seconds. This just signifies that it has a special attack. For this particular card, that special attack is actually linked to Siege. It does more damage against buildings, so this is actually a very effective card versus wells and orbs and walls and buildings. So a lot of units will have special attacks, and usually those special attacks do not confer any bonuses against other units. Sometimes they do, but for the most part they don't. So this just means that this, no matter what, it will always do 820 points of damage against any unit. So if you're using a Burrower to, say, fight one of those Dread Chargers that we saw earlier, it's not really going to be that effective against because it's not a medium counter. And this is what an uncommon symbol looks like. It just means it's going to be a little bit more difficult to get it out of the booster pack. This is a Colossus. It requires 280 power. It requires 3 pure nature orbs. So you have to have a minimum of 3 nature orbs obtained, and then your 4th one is a joker, as I call it, or any orb. So you can use that 4th orb to be anything. You can summon 1 before it goes on recharge. Here is the special ability. It is a rare card. Once again, that just affects the drop rate out of a booster pack. It has 5,000 health, and it is an XL or extra large unit. It can do 5820 damage. It is a melee unit because that's what the sword stands for, but it is an XL counter. So against other XL creatures, such as another Colossus, it does 5820 times 50% damage, which is quite a bit. So you'll want your Colossus, or you want your Colossus taking on other XL creatures versus other creatures trying to take on XL creatures, because it will do that bonus damage. This, you've got to be able to understand the counter system. This is most new players' #1 problem, is they don't understand counters. They don't understand why their units drop as quickly as they do. Another type of unit that we have, or another type of card that we have, all these prior ones, these are all squads. These are all units that you can physically control and move. We also have building cards. This particular one is a breeding ground. It costs 20 power, or 70 power rather. It requires 1 nature orb and 1 any orb. It has 1 special ability. You can summon 3 before it has to recharge. It has 1200 health. Notice that it has no damage. So this cannot actually damage any enemy units. So it just sits there. Its special ability is what makes it useful, and it is a common card. So once again, it just affects the drop rate when you're attempting to get a new card. So this doesn't damage any creatures or any enemy whatsoever. Now, when you compare that to, say, a cannon tower, which is 70 power, it requires one frost orb and one any orb. So as long as you have a frost orb, any other orb will work. It has 2,000 health, but it does 1380 points of damage. This is what we call a defensive or an offensive unit, depending on how you want to use it. It does 1,380 damage every 20 seconds. It doesn't have a counter, so it does the same damage to every size unit, small, medium, large, or extra large. So these are the two different types of buildings that we may have. Some just sit there and give you the special ability power, or they're actually offensive and can actually cause damage and damage your units. Another type of card that we have are spells. You have two types of spells and arcanes, and there's a few variations between them, but for the most part, here's the general rule. Once again, it requires one nature or orb for this particular ensnaring roots. It is a spell. When you have a spell in the description, the word spell, that means it affects the enemy. It won't affect you, it affects the enemy. So you can drop it right in the middle of yourself, and it's really not going to harm you that much, or at all, actually. The second type of spell that we have is arcane. Arcane are spells that you can cast on yourself. They're usually buffs, they're usually heals, they're usually beneficial spells for yourself. This is a common spell that you're going to see in PvP. It's for Frost. Once again, it requires one pure Frost orb, and you can use it twice before you have to recharge it. It is an arcane spell. So, spell usually means it affects the enemy. Arcane means it affects yourself and it gives you a benefit. Those are just some of the basic cards that you're going to see basically in PvE and PvP. It just gives you a whole description. So being able to look at the card, I can immediately tell, okay, here's the name. It costs 280 power. It takes 4 orbs or error for a card. 5,000 health is XL. It's an XL counter. So that right there tells me a lot about this card. So this card, it tells me this is a very powerful card against other XL units. Now, some other cards that we have with Battle Forge has expansions is we had what we call fire affinities, or affinities rather. Alaska Gory here is actually what we call fire affinity. If you'll notice, the Grigori has a red outline around the power of the orbs. If you compare that to, say, little Colossus, it doesn't have that outline. Basically what that means is with the expansions, they added in properties from the other affinity or other colors into the cards. As you can see, this is a purple and blue card. This is what part of the Lost Souls set. It requires one shadow and one frost and then one any. But it also has a red affinity, which means it has fire affinity, and fire has a tendency of being stronger in regards to damage, so it has destructive properties. And once again, health is the size, and it is a large counter, so it means it does 3,000 plus 50% against large creatures, but against small, medium, or XL creatures, it only does 3,000. Once again, understanding how the counter system works will help. And this tells you that it has a added benefit of some type of fire property, which you'll have to actually get from the description. And like I said, we'll show you that a little bit more. Fire is not the only affinity. You also have nature affinity, you have shadow affinity, and you have frost affinity. They all there. This is Stonekin. It requires one frost, one nature, and as you can see, here's the green background, here's the blue background. So that tells you that it's part of the Stonekin set, and it's going to require frost and nature. And once again, it's a large unit, and it's a large counter, and it does ranged damage. So once again, against other large units, it will do a bonus damage. So like I said, I mean, I cannot stress this enough. This is the key to Battle Forge right here, is understanding the counter system. And last but not least, we have my all-time favorite card of the entire set, the Razor Leaf. The gold star here simply means that it is a promo card. All promo cards come upgraded to level 3. If you notice, the regressor on the side right here, there are no decorations. As you upgrade your unit, you're going to get these decorations right here. This summons at level 1, level 2, and a level 3 upgrade. That means you've upgraded your card. Level 3 is a maximum upgrade. So when you have a maximum upgrade, you have maximum hit points, maximum damage, and maximum special abilities depending on how the card is. Promos, like I said, I don't know how they're going to be handled in Battle Forge Reborn yet, but hopefully they're going to be rewards for tournaments and everything else. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take you to a website. This website is allcards.battle bfreborn.com, and basically this is a database of all the cards that are going to be in Battle Forge Reborn. Now there is one set up for the original Battle Forge game. However, there's going to be tweaks and changes to some of the cards in the future, so they want to keep a separate database for those changes, and that's what these are. It's actually real simple to use. You just click on whatever card you want, and here are all the tier ones. What I did is I want to click on all nature T1 or Air 1 cards. There you go, that's for nature. And this brings up all the cards. Now, what I was telling you, when you highlight the cards, you see the special abilities. Say for Spearman here, I can highlight Spearman and you can see the weapon change, makes use effective against medium units. So not only is it a small counter, when you activate the special ability, it also makes it into a medium counter. So it's a very powerful T1 card. It's one of nature's strongest ones. The strongest ones, actually, Wind Weavers. Just to give you another example of that, we'll go with fire here, or scavenger. They're scabby. Uh, Crippling bite, when it actually attacks and bites you, it will slow your unit up to 5 seconds. And I believe that changes as you upgrade. So BF cards, or all cards, bfreborn.com is a great card database. It has all the cards, and I couldn't even tell you how many cards there are. I mean, there's umpteen. I don't even know how many cards in the game. There's so many. So, I mean, and you can have any combination. You can have Shadow Frost or Shadow Fire, which is Bandit. You could have Frost and Nature, which is Stonekin. There's the aggressors. There's all different kind of combinations that you can have. This is a great resource for beginning players if you want to figure out what kind of cards you want to have in your deck. And when you highlight it at the very bottom right there where you say U1, U2, U3, those are your upgrades and where the upgrades are located. All upgrades start at basic, which is as is, and then you can upgrade it to 1, 2, and 3, which are those little rings that we saw in the promo razor leaf. So I hope this has been an informative tutorial. Like I said, this is a very basic tutorial on how to read cards, and hopefully you've been able to look at a card and immediately see exactly what it can and can't do. That's the whole point. And like I said, I cannot stress the counters enough. This is really the meat and potatoes of Battle Forge. If you can understand the counter system, what counters what, you will really excel at this game. This is DarianDelford, and I hope to make some more of these, and as the game progresses, I hope I will. Y'all have a lovely day.